So there are two logging facilities for administration and for audit purposes. The first monitoring system is called as access logging facility. As its name indicates, we log all access related details. So it is used for access and security audit analysis. And maybe for a particular period, we'll do monitoring of database access requests, and log entries for requests that are granted or denied. It means periodically we will check what all accesses users have and what are actual access they are trying to do. If anyone is trying to access the data which they not intended to do, anyway they will get denied, but this denial request also been logged in the data dictionary tables so that we can do our analysis and find out why they are trying to access the data which is not supposed to access by these people. Okay, so it is one type of a proactive audit to identify the intentions of the users on the secured data. You will see how we can set up this access logging facility and capture those activities of accessing the data or denying the data. And what are the dictionary tables involved, what are the commands, everything we'll see in the access logging facility. Similarly, there is one more logging facility called query logging. This we'll call it as DBQL, database query logging. This also has a similar purpose, but this purpose is on not accessing the data but on the query performance. So we will log information of each and every query executed by the users. We will see what is the workload of the particular query, how much resources this particular query is being using for this execution, how many CPUs, how much IO, how much impact on the system. All these measures are captured in the DBQL related data dictionary views. So first time we have to set up this DBQL and it start monitoring all the queries which we have already set up to capture them. And finally, maybe weekly or maybe monthly, based on the number of users, based on the number of loads, you will do a monitoring which queries are being executed what time, by what users, what type of users, and how much workload is there at that particular moment, and is there anything we can change so that we will have a proper workload at proper times. So we'll use this DBQL reports to understand the workload on the machines and to understand how efficient queries are being executed by the users and do some suggestions. So these are two access logging and query logging mechanisms, which would help us to monitor the system in terms of security, in terms of performance. And to set up this access logging and query logging, we should have access on few macros. So if there are macros, we have to have execute permissions. Users who are granted execute permissions on the following macros can use the begin query logging and end query logging statements. These are the statements used for query logging facilities, and this is the macro dbc.dbql access macro. So initially DBC would have access to this, and DBC would grant the execute permission on dbql access macro to sysdba. Then onwards, sysdba can log the access and query logins. So initially only DBC and system FE field engineers are allowed to issue the begin and end query logging statements. But whenever the sysdba got the access with the explicit rights given by the DBC, SysDBA can also start. Okay, if it is given with grant options, then SysDBA can also grant it to the application level DBAs. But if everybody has this access logging mechanism rights, if everybody started, the data dictionary views are highly impacted. Okay, so we have to identify which users should have this access, and even the users who already have this access, and they have to identify what type of queries they have to log, what type of users they have to monitor. All those things we have to narrow down. Otherwise, every query given by every user, if they are getting logged into data dictionary views, they will become hues and your data dictionary will fail. So you have to be careful what users we are monitoring, what queries we are monitoring. We'll see those. Increase the font here. So here we'll see how we can set up the access logging. First, install access logging on the system. How we'll install this access logging dependent the data dictionary views and tables. First we have to run the DIP script, and that too the subscript of DIP access to install the dbc.accesslogRule macro in the system. Okay. Once you install it, restart the database to activate the code. So these might be done at the time of Teradata configuration at the machines by the Teradata Corporation itself initially one time. But if they were not done and you want to start this access logging facility, okay, so you have to install the DIP ACC, which is the script for data initialization program. Yeah, we know what is DIP, right? In the data dictionaries we have seen how to install the data dictionary. So out of the DIP scripts, DIP ACC is the subscript which has to be installed, okay, to get all the related macros and data dictionary tables, views, everything. And once you install it, you have to create and empower a security administrator. Okay, we'll create a separate user and give all accesses to this particular user who will do this access logging mechanisms. Okay, this is a typical usage. Otherwise, you also can do the access logging once you are granted accesses. But typically, what they do, they'll create a separate user. Create user, some username. Here it is secure admin, and we have created a user with a secured password. Okay, this is all done at SysDBA level. That's where it is common for all the applications. Here, if you observe, SysDBA did not get with grant option or with admin option. Right? So, whole SysDBA is doing all the things as a security admin on all the application related. So, each application, whoever wanted to track the access mechanisms of their users, they have to approach the SysDBA and they request SysDBA to set up the logging mechanism for their users for their queries. Okay. So the SysDBA has given access to security admin, and security admin is granted execute access on access log rule macro and logon rule macro. Okay. These are the two macros required to capture access logging. Okay. For query logging we have seen this is the macro, dbql access macro. But for access logging, the macro name is access log rule dbc logon rule. Okay. So once the user has access on these particular macros, then they can start the begin logging statements. Okay. So we'll define all the rules whose queries or whose access to be logged into the data dictionary tables. Log all attempts to access security macros. Whoever trying to access these macros, all those users also to be captured. Then log all denied attempts to access DBC users. Okay, so here there are some examples. Okay, you may not use the same exact thing, you may use extra or you may use less, but here what are the rules they are defining? Logging all accesses on the security macros, log all denied attempts to access DBC users. That means we don't give DBC user access to everyone, but we want to see whoever is trying to access DBC users and getting denied, so that we'll see their interest, why they are trying to access this DBC users even though they are getting denied, and we'll approach them and we'll see, okay, what is their intention of accessing this. And then log any create or drop user database or grant commands. Okay, whoever is using create user, drop user, grants, accept the DBS, if anyone is trying to do all these operations frequently, then we'll try to see what's the usages. Okay, to do these activities, what are the queries we have to execute? For the first one, log all attempts to access security macros. This is the query. Begin logging with text on each all on macro DBC logon rule, macro DBC access log rule. This is the query to satisfy the requirement of logging all the security macros. I will tell you what are those with text, on, each, all, on, macro. In the syntax we'll see, but this is the example how we can do that. Okay, and then log all denied attempts to access DBC users. So this is the query. Begin logging denials with the text on each, all, on user DBC. And then begin logging with text on each database user grant. To select the access related commands of dropping users, creating users, granting commands. This is the begin logging query. So whenever you execute such type of rules, rule SQLs, all these rules are entered in access log rule view. Okay, so once you execute a log rule, it will be entered in log rule view. You can see that it contains current logging rules granted by begin and end logging statements. Okay, so it is a begin logging statement, so the rule is implied here. Okay, you can end logging statement also. After your analysis, you have identified the facts, and if you feel that it no longer used, this rule is no longer required, then you can do an end logging statement so that this rule will be deleted from here. Okay, so at any time, if you have any questions on the access patterns of the users, you request SDBA, they will execute the rule commands. So these rules are logged here, and after logging the rule, whatever patterns happen, whatever events happen based on these rules, all these rules will be captured in access log. After capturing all the events here, we will do the analysis, and after your analysis, if you feel okay, we have identified the facts and these rules are no longer required, you will do an end logging statement. I will show you what is an end logging statement also. Okay, this is all the whole concept is. You have to have the macro access to set up this. Okay, you have to install the data dictionary views related to access logging, and then you will find out scenarios, what type of accesses you have to capture. You will define the rules with the queries, and all the rules are logged into access log rules, and corresponding events are logged into access log. And once you do the audit, and if you feel you identified the facts and these rules are no longer required to capture, you can do an end logging so that the rules will be deleted here, and then the events don't capture here once the rule is deleted from here. Okay, and we'll see a complete syntax of begin logging state. Begin logging, access is default, denials. Okay, if you want to capture the denials, you have to mandatorily put denials with text. Means in the event table, if you want to see the SQL query also what the users are using, okay, you use with text. So when the event happens, it will capture the SQL of the user also in the access log view, so that you can see, okay, what query they have executed and what was denied and how many times it was executed, okay, which user has executed at what time. Okay, all this information is logged along with the SQL text. Okay. And while capturing, you may define either only first time access you have to capture, or only the recent action you have to capture, or only the first and last, that means recent and the first access, or each and every access you want to capture. Okay. So you can mention any one of these words to specify or to narrow down the events to be logged. If only first time, or only the last time, that is very recent one, or both, or each and every one, not first, not last, each and every request on this particular table or macro to be captured. Okay. And then, do you want to capture all the operations or only any specific operations like selects, grants, updates? You can mention any of the specific operation to be captured like this. Only select options, only inserts, okay, or only grants, any operation. Here operation means any operation, DML operation, any DCL operation. You can mention any specific operation to be captured, or if you specify all, then each and every DML executed by the users on this particular object are captured. Just to filter out, okay, I don't want to see all selects, I want to see only the right operations like update and insert. Then you can mention those operations. Otherwise, all selects will also be captured, which is unnecessary, and unnecessarily you are capturing in the data dictionary tables. So you have to narrow down what you have to capture. Don't do each every time. Don't do all every time. If you do all operations each time on the object will be captured, which is very expensive at the data dictionary part. So narrow down as much as you can while defining the rules. Okay. So only define the operations what you want to capture. Then by the username. So which user specifically you want to capture? Okay, you may not be interested in seeing all users access patterns probably. Okay, if you are in question with or in doubt with any one specific user performance or accesses, then you can include those user IDs. If you don't mention, it will capture all the users information. If you mention, only those particular user information is captured. And you can mention the objects on entire database you want, on entire user you want, or any specific table or any specific view, macro, trigger, procedure, function, data type. So you can narrow down what objects you want to capture for the access logging or access denial mechanisms. Okay, if you specify the database level, then in the database, any object is accessed by this particular user for these particular operations, and each time or first time, last time, along with the text, everything is logged into the query. So you have to identify what the object you want to actually capture for access logging patterns. You see some examples here. Begin logging denials with text on each select on table employee. Okay, so I didn't mention any user here. So any user, if we do select operation on this employee table, and if we get a denial message, then that particular event to be captured. This is the rule meaning. Okay. You see one more example here. Begin logging with the text on first insert on table employee. Okay, so whoever does the first insert and they able to insert into the employee table are captured here. So like that you can see any of the rule here can understand, okay, if you familiar with this syntax. Okay, what all possible things we provide in the rule SQL. And this is the access log rule view and the possible columns. Each and every rule you submit with the begin logging statement, this is being captured in the rules view first. Access log rule view. These are the columns, and you can see here there is a sample query. So here we are accessing the access log rule view for these particular columns. Okay, I wanted to see what all rules are existing in the data dictionary views based on the rules defined by the security admin. You can see username, database name, TVM name means table or view or macro name. Create database, access rule, create user, access rule, drop database. So all these columns are interested to see. You can see the result here. Username. So all user access I want to capture on the DBC, on all the tables. Okay. CDB is create database, create users, drop database, drop user, grants, selects, execute. You can see the actual cell values which represent the rules. Okay, the position 1, how often to log the request? FLBE blank. F means first, last, both, each, none. Okay, so whatever you give here in this place, yeah, that is logged in the first position of the rule. Here. That means each you want to log in, and position 2 represents how often to log the denials. First one is how often to capture the accesses, and the second one is how often to log the denials, and the third question is how often to save the text. When you give with the text option, do you want to save it with the text or not? The plus is for all entries, hyphen is for the denials, and is equal to symbol is for only the specified objects to save the text. This is the plus or minus what you are seeing here. This is the third position. For each column we have 3 positions. The first position is how often to log the request. The second position is how often to log denials. If it is blank, that you are not interested to log the denials. If you give E here also, then each denial and each access also you want to capture. Here sometimes plus, sometimes minus, sometimes equal to. What does it mean? How often to save the text? Plus is for all the entries to save the text. Minus is to save text only the denials. Equal to, if it represents here, then for all accesses and denials both you have to log the SQL text. This is how you can understand the rules table by selecting the access log rule view. Okay, so how we'll set it up? By giving these commands, and once you give the command, the rule is stored here in these formats. Okay. And then whenever the events happen, up to here we see how the rules are captured. And once you define the rule, and as per that rule, if any event happens, those events also stored in the view called access log. So how you access the access log view? So this is a typical query. So you can see when it happened, who has done this access, what type of access he did, what is the frequency, the access log result, and statement, what statement he has used in order to capture this particular event in the access log table as per the rules defined on the object. So this is sample result. At what time, who is the user granted this, or who is the user executed this particular query, what type of access it is, select, insert, delete, update. So these are possible operations, access types, log frequency. Okay. It is captured based on the each request basis, or the first request basis, or last request basis. And then is it a denial or grant statement? And what is the statement executed? Okay, select star from PD employee got denied based on the each request we are trying to capture, and this is the select type of query, and who has used this particular user. You can identify why he is trying to select the data and he is getting a denial access. Okay, first time he got a denial access, then did he stop, or is he still trying, and is he trying to delete or update the data? You can capture that information and events. Okay, monthly or weekly basis, you may monitor these and identify any spikes, like any doubtful events are being performed by the users. You then proactively go and check with them to why they did that. Okay, they may not be doing with wrong intentions always. Okay, but just we have to touch base with them if they are having any difficulty in accessing the objects and he is still wanted the access or not. Okay, if as per his role is really required, then we will help him to request for accesses. If it is not required, then we will ask them to stop accessing this particular object. You have to use so and so other object for your usage purpose. Yeah, but still, if you feel any other doubts on the user, then you can escalate it to the data owners, who is trying to secure this data, and you can inform about this particular user what operations he is doing. And after 30 days, if you want to remove these events, because these events are keep on increasing, right? Once you have defined the rule, all these events are being captured, and after some time you have to delete it, otherwise it will fill up all the data dictionary POM space. Okay, so we have to delete this. So to delete these events, we have the dbc.delete access log view. You can delete all the entries which are within the 30 days. Older than 30 days entries are deleted from this delete access log view. Delete from dbc.delete access log, where log date is so and so date. That means you are overriding the condition of 30 days here, and you want to delete which are older than 90 days. Okay, so by default it has a condition of deletion of the rules, not rules, the events within 30 days by default. But if you want to delete any other period of the date, you have to override the condition by supplying here, where log date is 90 days, any day, any number of days, whatever you want. But if it is 30 days requirement, by default you can delete it with the view. But if there is any requirement of deletion of any other period of data or events, then you have to use a condition, where condition, and it should override the condition which is given in the delete access log view. And okay, here we are deleting the rule. Here we are deleting the events. But if you want to delete the rule, okay, which is causing to capture all these events, then you have to use the end logging statement. End logging denials with the text on the objects, on the access types, the users, everything will define with an end logging. Correspondingly, it will close the rule in the access rule table, access rule view. So this is the example. End logging denials on select update on table employee. So if you already have a rule open for this with the begin logging statement, this end logging statement will correspondingly close that rule so that no other events will be captured based on this particular object, based on the denials, based on this particular accesses. Okay. To verify the rule, again you can use this query to identify if the rule still exists or not after you granted the end logging statement. Okay. So it should be exactly the same of the begin logging, then only it will be closed. Otherwise, you have a different rule and you are trying to close a different rule, so it won't be matched. So the end logging should also match with all the parameters what you used in the begin logging statement. Otherwise, it won't be closed. This is all about the access log. Okay, we'll see some samples. Then we'll start with the query logging. Query logging is also very much similar to this. If you understand in this access logging, query logging is very much similar and very much easy to understand. Okay, so let us do some practical capturing of access logging, and then we will go with query logging. Okay, here this access logging you can do in both. Teradata administrator also you can do, SQL assistant also you can do. Yeah, I'm doing it with SQL assistant so that you will familiar with the queries, and you can do it similar with the query Teradata administrator also. I will show you that. Okay. So this is the DBC access rule view. So let us see if there are any rules defined here. Okay. There are no rules defined as of now. So now you want to start logging some accesses or some denials on the tables. So here I have given an example. Begin logging with the text on each access of all the accesses on the database retail. Okay. I want to capture all type of accesses on the retail database by any of the user but any time. Okay. So just execute. See, begin completed, some rows processed. So now let us see the log rules view. Same query, just to see if the rule is captured properly or not. See, the rule got captured on the retail database, all the objects of the retail database. If you give any object, any specific object, you can see that particular specific object here. So for each object you will have one entry, this table. But here I have given all the objects, and for every time I wanted to see the accesses with the text on the access and no denials I want to capture. So these are three positions. So each column is of 3 characters length. First one is ELF something, and second one is also ELF for denials. This is for access. The second position is denials. Here it is blank. And third position is plus. Do you want with text? Okay. With the text for access. Minus is for with the text for denial. Equal to is for with text for everything. Okay. So the rule is captured here. Then this is the event table. So let's start from dbc.access log table. There are no events happened so far. That means no one is tried to access this retail database, so there is no event happen. Okay, let us try to open one more session and we'll try to access this retail database through any other user, and we'll see if it is been captured or not. Okay, got logged on. Now as the TD user, I'm trying to access the retail table. Retail.customer is our table. I'm trying to access. Okay, I have accessed it, and now let's see the access log table whether it has captured it or not. See, earlier it was 0. Now after I access this retail table with TD user, it has captured the event. Who has access? TD user. At what time? At what time? And what date? Yeah. And what is the access type? Select access identity. Frequency, each frequency I wanted to capture, so it is showing each. Is it granted or denied? Yes, it is granted. Right? With text means what is the text we used? This is the event happened. Okay. Now let me try to do one more event. Something. Insert into is a long query which we have to. Okay, again let me try select. Second select with different timings, right? At least you can see. Anyway, we have given all. So whatever request you do on retail or whatever operation you do on retail, it should be captured. So now there are 2 rows. So whatever you do on retail based on the begin login statement, whatever options you have given begin login statement, it will try to capture those many rows. Okay. So if you see there are 1,000 users who are using this table almost 100 times every day, then you can identify, I mean you can assume how many rows it will have, right? So we have to narrow down. So here for practical purpose we have done at a table level, at a database level, and each accesses and everything. But in real time, okay, we have to identify to narrow down the events to be captured. Otherwise, it will hit with very huge data. Okay. Now, after I see these reports, I have identified how approached the users. I got the clarifications, and now I no longer need this rule to be active, and I don't want these events to be captured. Then what I shall do? I have to end logging on the table. Okay. As of now, the rules are active, and so the events are being captured. If I close this rule with an end logging statement, then the events won't be captured. Right? So you can see end logging is executed. The similar pattern of begin logging. They should be in sync. This begin and should be in sync so that you can identify this rule is closed here in the rules table. See, 0 rows. And from now, even you access this, it won't be captured. You will see only 2 rows which were captured earlier when the rule was active. From now onwards, you won't see any new event is captured here. Okay. But the old events which were already captured will remain there. If you want to delete, you can delete it with the delete view. Right? We have seen the delete view. dbc dot delete access log, but by default it deletes only the minimum of 30 days more, because if you see the definition dbc dot delete access log, please remember the spelling, dbc dot delete access log. Show view dbc dot delete access log, access rule, access log, okay, access log view. If you want to see the definition, see it has embedded condition of minimum of 30 days old data it will remove. If you want to increase the period, you can do that. But here, as we are trying to delete the data which is captured just now, right now, today, I am accessing the table, because as a DBC, I have access on the table also, access log table, on which this particular view is defined. Okay, so I am directly deleting data from this access log table. Delete completed, 2 rows processed. Now if you see the events, it also has 0 records. Okay, so in real time, generally we use this delete access log to delete default 30 days old data. But here I just delete it from the table itself. Okay, so unless you don't have access, because as a DBC I have access, but as a sysadmin or secure user you may not have access. So you have to use this delete access log in general. So this is how they can try capturing the rules, events, then identify, monitor, then closing the rules, and these are the views and tables involved in capturing and deleting the rules. Any questions? Yeah, Rajneesh.
If we want to delete more than 30 days, since that view has that 30-day
Condition.
Condition in that, so if we want to delete like 90 days, how can we do that?
You have to give an explicit condition at the view itself. So this will override the condition of 30 days there.
Okay, so we have to modify the view then.
No, you not modify the view, but while you are executing this view, you will give a condition.
Okay, so that will override the
Condition within the view. Yep.
Okay. Actually, one thing I want to ask is, like, if you do a dbql log, activate a dbql log on access log, actually on a table or a database, does it have any performance issue or something when a query is going against a database?
Yes, because it has to capture. So whenever the user is executing it, there is an extra effort required to capture that particular event with the information in the event table. So that's where I'm telling you, don't capture everything on every object. Narrow down your audit request. Okay, you identify what type of request. Only write operations you want to capture. Yes, you have to mention it, update in the begin login statement. And not all the objects of retail table, you want to specific table, okay, which has to be very much secured. Then you use the table name in the begin login statement, so that only that particular table related events will be stored. Otherwise, yes, there is performance issue at the data dictionary part.
Is there any restrictions on the utility? Like if the dbql log is activated on a table, we cannot use multi-load or fast load?
No, there is no rules at the utilities level.
Okay.
Because it is an operation, right? If it is an insert operation, yes, it will be captured here. And it will do by data dictionary internal threads. It is not done by the fast load utility or multi-load utility. So fast load utility will do the operations on the table itself, but the event is captured within this based on the triggers, okay, what they implement based on these rules.
Okay. So like in practicality, like how long do we like activate the dbql on a table actually?
Maximum of 30 days generally. Okay, so if you have any question after you implement the application, first 30 days we generally monitor many things. Okay, and after that
Okay.
we will narrow down. Okay, so these things we no need to capture. These things we no need to capture. Only capture these events for 30 more days and see. And after 30 more days, we'll remove everything. So finally, after you identify the events and you are satisfied with the usages, within 30 days, you should be deleting it. That's where the default date is 30 days.
Okay. So the whole purpose of DBQL log is like how many users are accessing a table or a database.
Access logging. It is not DBQL. It is access logging.
Access log. Okay.
Yeah. Access logging purpose is to identify, to monitor, to audit, to proactively find out the intentions of the users on the data.
Okay. Okay. One last question, Manohar, like you mentioned about the dip. I think like you mentioned about a dip script before actually.
Yes, in data dictionaries.
So which kind of script is that actually? I mean, I remember like you showed us.
It is almost an SQL script. Okay, but
Okay.
you can execute it through BTQ once you have access, and if you log in with the DBC user in the BTQ itself, you can execute that DIP script. Okay, right? We don't have the DIP scripts, but it has all SQLs, okay, which creates related tables, which grants related accesses to the users. All those SQLs will be there in DIP, database initialization program. We call it.
Okay. So who does that actually? We will be doing it, the DBA will be doing, or Teradata will be doing it actually?
Initially Teradata will be doing it, but if they don't do, and if we have the skill sets which is required to execute the script, then they may leave to the company DBS. From Teradata Corporation they come, if we request them they will do it, otherwise they will hand it over to the internal DBS, so that we can also execute as per our need basis.
Okay, because like the reason I was asking is basically, do we modify or we maintain the dip script as a
No,
DBA?
we don't modify, we just execute it.
Okay.
So that we have this setup.
All right. Okay. Thanks, Mano.
Thank you. Yes, Vidya.
Yeah, sorry, Manohar, I'm asking the same question. Like, I didn't understand like why the log date, current date minus date, current date minus 90 days will how it's going to update the view. Can you show us like the you specified like view the table name? Can you execute this one and show me in the queue like whether it's going to update the date minus 13?
Okay. At least it should not give any error. That's what we want to see, right?
Yeah, like whether it's going to change it to 90 days or not.
Yeah. So delete from delete from delete access log, and the condition what you want to override. Delete from the rules view where date is greater than 90. Check option. It's not required. It is there in the definition. You check. The date is log date. See? Okay. By default, if I delete up to here, it would delete 30 days related data. If you want to delete 90 days, you can use 90 days. It won't give you an error. It will take this condition now to override the condition whatever you have given with 30 days.
Yeah, can you show me that view now?
View is not going to change. In the execution itself, it will change. Okay.
So then what is the purpose? Like already suppose 31 days back I created one, and it was created yesterday is the 30th day. So it's already deleted. Suppose today I executed, what is the purpose?
Okay, fine. So see the scenario. On 1st of Jan, I have given the rule. Okay, and by 30th Jan, if I execute delete view without any condition, for example, what happens? It will delete the whole 30 days of data here. But suppose I didn't do this. On 30th Jan, I didn't deleted the events. I forgot it, for example. And maybe after Feb or March 30th.
No, it won't delete 30th data because uh, last 30 days means 30 days data will be there. Before that data it will delete, correct?
Yes. Okay, sorry. So on Feb 28th Feb or something. If I execute this, it would delete the 30 days old data. That means in January, whatever has happened, that would delete it. Is it true now?
Yes.
January events will be deleted here. Okay. But I forgot it in February. Okay, so I am executed in March, for example. It could be Jan also. So within 30 days means Jan 30. So before
No,
30.
It's not forgetting. Like, automatically it will delete, correct?
No,
Like,
if you execute this, it will delete defaultly 30 days of data. How it will delete automatically? You have to execute this delete, right?
okay, I am thinking like in the system only it's going to delete. We can't.
This is the view exists for you to facilitate delete. You have to execute the statement in order to delete 30 days old data. If you don't execute this, then you have to modify the conditions. In March, if you want to execute, you have to delete it with the overridden condition so that it will delete the older data also, more than 60 days old.
Okay. Now I got it. Like I thought like it's by default it's going to delete like 30 days.
Yeah, by default is correct, but you have to execute that statement.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem. Okay, so we'll see the other similar concept, query logging. No, it is already 8. Okay, fine. And so it is almost similar topic. We'll start tomorrow then. So basically, the purpose of DBQL is to capture similar information, not about the accesses, but the performance of the query. Okay, so we'll see tomorrow the similar options, similar accesses are required to the users by DBA to sysdba, but the macro here is dbc.dbql access macro. Okay. And these are the dictionary views. Okay, there are more dictionary views and tables involved in capturing the events. Okay. If you want to capture the queries, you'll capture here. And if you want to capture each step of the query, that is each explained stepwise, this particular view is being used. And if you want to capture the object level information of each and every query, for example, if it is a join of 5 tables, 6 tables, for each table you want to capture this query, then the query log objects is used to capture the object level information of each query. And then the whole SQL with the text, even though the text is more than default 200 characters. So here it captures the event with a SQL text of 200 characters, but here it captures even more than 200 characters. And then the summary. The query is meeting a summary of the thresholds. If you want to define a rule, if CPU impact is more than 50 or CPU impact or any other parameters are more than this, less than this, then that particular summaries related information is stored here. And then if you want to see the explain plan also for each and every query, you can capture them in the query log explain. So these are different data dictionary views involved. These are the corresponding tables which capture the data, and we access this data based on these views. So tomorrow we'll see how we can query, we'll begin query loggings. Similarly, the rules what we define, and how we will inform that we want to have the objects, we want to have the explain plan to be captured, how we want SQL to be captured, each step information, the summary information. To capture all this information, we have corresponding queries, and then we'll see the events happen, and then we'll see how to end this query logging, and then the dictionary rules, views, the sample informations, and through Teradata Administrator also I will show you how we log accesses and query logging mechanisms. This is tomorrow's topic. Okay. So Rajneesh, Vidya, do you have any questions still, or are you going to drop your hands?